this was not even a transgender person. This was a assigned male at birth man who just had that identified in his email signature. And he was fired for that.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Let's take a look at this Mahmoud Khalil thing. Mahmoud was a student at Columbia University who was a participator in who participated in some of the pro-Palestine protests, and he has been arrested, and they're trying to deport him, and importantly, you know, there's been a lot of people saying a lot of things about what happened or didn't happen on Columbia, at Columbia. The government, to this day, and the arrest happened a number of days ago, to this day, is still not accusing Khalil of a crime. They are not pointing to a specific statute that they claim he has broken. They're not doing that. They're not saying they have identified him as a leader, and they're saying that they're going to deport him. In fact, let me find this this quote from the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security. He is asked how Khalil supported Hamas, because that's a bunch of the stuff that they're saying. They're saying, oh, he supported Hamas, he supported terrorism, blah blah blah. In an interview with NPR, the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security was asked, how did he support Hamas? Exactly what did he do? He said, quote, well, I think you can see it on TV, right? This is somebody that we've invited and allowed the student to come into the country, and now, importantly, not on a student visa, a green card holder, married to a U.S. citizen, which should entitle you to First Amendment protections. This is somebody that we've invited and allowed the student to come into the country, and he's put himself in the middle of the process of basically pro-Palestinian activities. And at this point, like I said, the Secretary of State can review his visa process at any point and revoke it. That is a direct quote. He's put himself in the middle of the process of basically pro-Palestinian activities. Not pro-Hamas, not pro-terrorist, pro-Palestinian. And this is, and I mean, we're seeing this with Trump literally using Palestinian as a slur, saying Chuck Schumer is basically a Palestinian now, as if the receiver, as if the listener, the viewer of him, when he's saying that, is supposed to say, oh, Chuck Schumer is a Palestinian now. That means he's bad. Right? This should be, you know, I mean, if you actually care about free speech, I have always cared about free speech. I have always been a supporter of free speech. I don't, you know, this is not a political talk show, and so we don't talk about like politics a lot, but you know, I have had conversations where people have been upset with me about where, you know, during some of the protests again, or some of the attempts to like get speakers canceled from universities, I've never thought that was wise or good, or like a good kind of inclination to have, you know, just generally speaking. And you know, people have been upset with me about that, and it's fine, and people can disagree. But the people who were saying I have a right to, you know, to make millions of dollars and to speak on college campuses and all of this kind of stuff, they positioned it as if it was a principled pro-free speech sort of thing. And now all of these people, almost all of these people, importantly, not all of them, but almost all of these people, including Ben Shapiro, are supporting this, supporting the deportation of a U.S. green card holder married to an American citizen because of his speech. It's just so gross. Former member of the UAW grad student union, and we'll read from the UAW's statements about this momentarily. But let's just play, because it's important for people to actually see, I think, some of the like inhumanity with that folks are being treated with, and the reaction that people have in these situations. So let's play the video of Mahmoud Khalil being arrested by ICE. Although they did not identify themselves as ICE, they did not give their names. You'll see it in the video. Let's play this.
Be under arrest. So turn around.
Okay,
Stop
let's
resisting.
not.
Stop resisting.
Okay, he's not resisting. He's giving me his phone. Okay, he's not. I understand. He's not resisting.
Put your arm down.
There's no need for this.
Don't worry about it. You're gonna have to come with us. Don't worry.
I'm coming with you. Don't worry.
No one's resisting, no one's getting worked up.
You guys really don't need to be doing all of that.
It's fine. It's fine. Maybe it's fine.
حبيبي كيف بدي اتصل فيك؟
Take Amy. Call Amy. She'll be.
Okay. Hi, Amy. Yeah, they just like handcuffed him and took him. I don't know what to do. Okay. Then what should I do? I don't know. Nor. Let me ask. Can we get a name, please? Of can we get your name? I understand the lawyer is asking for your name.
Go over there. No, we don't give our names.
The lawyer's asking for your name. He's saying they don't give their names.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They'll be taken to immigration custody at 26 Federal Plaza.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
They'll be taken to immigration custody at 26 Federal Plaza.
She said they're taking him to 26 Federal Plaza. Can you please specify what agency is taking him, please? Excuse me. They're not talking to me. I don't know. I don't know. Excuse me. The lawyer would like to speak to somebody. Oh my God, they're literally running away from me.
I mean, it's I mean, really, really, really gross seeing that happen. I think that we are really seeing a degradation of what the protections of the First Amendment mean in this country. I mean, this also comes, obviously this is like less important at, it's a more serious matter to be deported or to attempt, that they are attempting to deport this person than it is to be fired from a job. But, this comes the week after Texas Governor Greg Abbott celebrated the firing of a state employee in the Real Estate Commission for having pronouns in his email signature, despite the fact that the employee received glowing performance reviews and was an essential member of the division, according to his supervisor. Being fired by the state, and this was not even a transgender person, this was a cisgender, born as a man, assigned male at birth man, who just had that identified in his email signature. And he was fired for that. Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate. And this person has been deported, or they are trying to deport him. They have not succeeded yet. And there are legal cases going through right now, and we'll see what happens. But I mean, genuinely, like, this is scary, right? If they can do this, and it's also important to know that the wife did not know where her husband was, where the father of her child, she is 8 months pregnant. She did not know where he was for like 48 hours. They just disappeared him. They said they were taking him to this 26 Federal Plaza, but then they took him to somewhere else. Then they took him to Louisiana without telling anybody. The AFL-CIO put out a statement about it. They said, as a labor movement with a long history of being targeted by the government for repression in response to peaceful protest, we once again affirm our commitment to due process and the rule of law. The arrest, detention, and attempt to deport Mahmoud Khalil, a legal permanent resident of the United States, sends a troubling message to all working people. We stand against every kind of hate, including anti-Semitism, and against every form of politics that seeks to divide working people. The actions taken against Khalil undermine the rule of law. Whether you agree or disagree with Khalil and other young people who protested on college campuses, there shouldn't be any debate over Khalil's right to be informed of the charges against him. No charges. There have been no charges right now. And the idea that the federal government should be getting involved at all is absurd, right? This is a matter, even, like they say, I mean, I think there's a certain level of problematic to even kind of giving into the idea about whether you agree with him or not, because that just so doesn't matter. But, nevertheless, whether you agree with the protests or not, or you had problems with this, that, or the other thing, that is not a matter for federal law enforcement agencies to be getting involved with. That is a matter for the university, and if the university wants, they can do something. They whatever, right? And we can debate what the university does on its merits. But the idea that there's any role for federal law enforcement here is absurd. Again, no charges for this person. No charges. The SEIU also had a statement from the president, April Verrett, president of the Service Employees International Union. Quote, abducting and detaining Mahmoud Khalil is an outrageous assault on free speech, due process, and immigrant communities. Mahmoud is a student, husband, and soon-to-be father legally residing in the U.S. By arresting and detaining him without due process, the Department of Homeland Security is sending a chilling message. Anyone who disagrees with the Trump administration's views is a target. This blatantly unconstitutional tactic is ripped straight from a well-worn authoritarian playbook designed to spread and silence movements for justice. We demand the administration release Mahmoud Khalil immediately. At the same time, higher education institutions must implement strong policies to protect workers and students, ensuring their right to peacefully protest, join a union, and uphold First Amendment rights. This administration's pattern of using immigrants as political scapegoats to distract from their billionaires' agenda is clear. Administration officials have lied time and time again, claiming to prioritize enforcement action against individuals who pose a threat to our communities. In reality, they've gone after students, separated families, and arrested scores of immigrant workers with no criminal record. This assault against Mahmoud Khalil is an attack on all of us who value democracy and freedom. We will fight against the administration's divisive, cruel policies and continue to demand equal justice for all immigrants and citizens. Our economy, our communities, and our shared future depend on it. And this isn't the only assault on free speech at Columbia, because Columbia has also fired the president of the Graduate Student Workers Union, UAW Local 2710. Also, it's worth noting, a Jewish person, right? Ostensibly for, all the anti-Semitism protests, right? All these protests that they just hate Jews. The president of the Graduate Student Union at Columbia is Jewish and has now been expelled and fired for his participation in these protests. This from the UAW. In the latest assault on First Amendment rights, Columbia University has expelled and fired Grant Minor, president of UAW Local 2710, which represents thousands of Columbia student workers. The firing comes one day before contract negotiations were set to open with the university. The university also, I don't think they mentioned this because this was a press release from a couple of days ago, university also did not attend the first bargaining session. They stood up the union. They didn't show. Continuing on with this press release, the shocking move is part of a wave of crackdowns on free speech against students and workers who have spoken out and protested for peace and against the war on Gaza. As the UAW has emphasized, the assault on First Amendment rights being jointly committed by the federal government and Columbia University are an attack on all workers who dare to protest, speak out, or exercise their freedom of association under the U.S. Constitution. It is no accident that this comes days after the federal government froze Columbia's funding and threatened to pull funding from 60 other universities across the country. It is no accident that this firing has occurred The day before contract negotiations begin, it is no accident that the university is targeting a union leader whose local went on strike in the last round of bargaining. It is no accident that this is happening at Columbia University, where student workers won back the right to collective bargaining in 2016. Trade unionists everywhere, defenders of the Constitution, of freedom of speech, of academic freedom, and the right of free association should be appalled and disgusted by the behavior of Columbia University and should take it for the clear signal it is. If they can come for graduate workers, if they can arrest, deport, expel, or imprison union leaders and activists for their protected political speech, then they can come for you, for your contract, for your paycheck, for your family, and for your rights. UAW Local 2710 is mobilizing a response and calls on all allies of the working class and Americans of good conscience to speak out and stand up against this gross injustice. It's really, genuinely concerning stuff happening. But we do have a concerning story still, but a little bit, a little bit less concerning and it's also got a bit of a funny thing to it. There's a video going viral on TikTok and social media of a Alabama roofer who outlasted ICE and was able to get around deportation by just not coming down. And so here's a little clip of conversations between the person videoing, the undocumented immigrant on the roof, and the ICE agents down on the ground.
¿Cómo? Venga, venga por mí, suba. Venga por mí. Estamos a la misma distancia. ¿Usted cree que hay más ellos? No, papá, mire, ve. No. ¿Usted cree que me van a mandar para mi país? No.
So there you go. It looked like they were having a little bit of fun there. And obviously still like a scary situation. I sent out a call on Twitter for folks to asking if anybody had seen any reporting on this, because I was hesitant to play this clip. I didn't know if it was old. I didn't know like exactly what was going on. And so I asked on Twitter, I was like, can anybody verify like the validity and the truth of this? I'm not seeing any reporting. I'm literally just seeing videos online. And a reporter did reach out to me and said that the video with the worker outlasting ICE happened in Baldwin County in Alabama, but I haven't found the specific place. So hopefully we'll be able to see a story out on this soon because there are reporters looking into it, it seems like. But what this reporter told me that they're hearing is that ICE is just going to a bunch of construction sites in the county, and instead of having specific people in mind, they're just targeting workers who look Hispanic. That's based on what an advocate told me. And so, look, like, we are being told that the Trump administration is targeting violent criminals, and that is what our tax dollars are being used for, to keep Americans safe. That is the first priority of the Trump administration's deportation agenda, ostensibly, is that first we want to go after the criminals. Well, I've just shown you two stories of people who objectively, Mahmoud Khalil was not hurting anybody, and there was no danger of him hurting anybody. The 10 people who were arrested at this Alabama construction site, no evidence. I mean, because they weren't going for particular people. They were just looking for people who looked Hispanic. And so, a bunch of people were on the roof and they all like got on the ground and ran away and they were all caught. But this other guy, he just stayed on the roof and he stayed up there for 6 hours, according to the videos that are going around online, until ICE just left. And so he was able to get away, and he was able to, and somebody else said that there was a video saying that when they asked why he did that, he said that he, had to get home to his daughter. And so, if they were going to arrest him and deport him, then they could do that, but they'd have to put in a little bit of work. right? Just a little bit of work. And so that is funny that they were not willing to put in a little bit of work and get on and get on a roof, which this guy has to do for his job every single day. And so presumably it was like a safety thing. Like they were like scared of getting on the roof or something like that because they didn't want to be unsafe. And so, you know, that's a little bit of irony too, that these, you know, big scary cops in their bulletproof vests weren't willing to get on a roof to put handcuffs on a guy. You know, I mean, just really like, it's just so, it's so gross. And so, you know, happy for this guy that he was able to get away. Hopefully he stays safe. And, you know, I thought we were going after the criminals at least first, right? At least first. That's what they were telling. And I do not think that they had been able to get rid of all the criminals in 30 days. I just don't think that's happened yet. But they're already moving on to people who are just working on roofs, people who protested Israel, not making us safe. So there you go. Adam, I don't
Jacob,
know if you,
yeah, I just wanted to chime in to say I had heard similar things to the reporter in terms of what's happening in Baldwin County. You know, it's hard to say what kind of numbers are being collected. I don't have that information, but I have heard rumors from folks in the community that Baldwin County Sheriff's Department has been doing this or has been very cooperative with ICE, and therefore ICE has been more of a threat in Baldwin County. It is, you know, to your point, I mean, this guy was just working, right? He was just doing his job. He was selling his labor to make a living, to provide for his family. And, you know, so I commend him for his bravery and for persistence. Because I couldn't imagine being in that scenario and realizing that you may not get to go home to your family and not know when you could see them again. You know, I understand that we all are concerned about our safety. Everyone wants to be in a safe community, a safe neighborhood. But to think that folks are posing a danger to you simply because of their paperwork or because of where they were born or the language that they speak is just absurd. And it plays into the divide and conquer tactics that, you know, the ruling elites have always deployed, you know, particularly in this country where we've had waves of xenophobia and anti-immigrant hysteria. And, you know, I also think back the history of censorship, the history of attacks on the First Amendment. We have always been very proud of the First Amendment, but really since, you know, the beginning of this country, it has always been tenuous. The John Adams administration went after people's First Amendment rights. I mean, this fellow is a founding father, right? He was literally the second president. That's how long it took, right? You can look back at World War I. And the, you know, suppression of speech, the suppression of the anti-war movement, the criminalization and deportation of radicals and activists and organizers, particularly in the labor movement. You know, we can think back to the Red Scare. You know, we've had arguably multiple Red Scares in this country. In some ways, you could look at it as what happened around Haymarket in the 1800s was an initial Red Scare, particularly targeting anarchist-leaning folks. We saw it again during World War I. We saw people like Eugene Debs imprisoned for giving a speech, right? An American citizen imprisoned for giving a speech. He did not incite violence or anything of this sort. Then, of course, the most famous Red Scare during the 1950s, during the McCarthy era, which, again, targeted our labor movement in particular. You know, we saw a lot of labor leaders and activists purged from our movement.
Right.
And so, you know, it's those things are weighing on my mind as we talk about these stories. And I think solidarity is going to be really, really important, that we look out for one another and have each other's back in this moment.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.